Hello and welcome back to Mondays with Megan. Today's fidget toy, starting to include these instead of hiding my quirkiness, is this fun little set of metal. Technically, it's a bracelet. I feel like it squeezes a little too much, even my tiny wrists, but little bracelet and ring, which I find that to be a little problematic. And then this is supposed to be a roller for your feet. It's stretchy metal. It looks really sharp, but it's actually very soothing. I got it for Christmas, so there's that. And it's got some interesting sounds. It's definitely very tactile. So there's that. I'll regularly be featuring all these things I have around on my desk. And oh, my cat is very into this.
Hi, yeah, yeah. You don't like this though. Remember that? Remember how your claw got stuck and then it was very sad? Yeah, very sad.
I wanted to circle back to something that I touched on. I think it was 2 weeks ago when I was talking about what exactly the woke ideology and the radical left is, in my understanding and in my experience. And again, my understanding and my experience are not actually total. They're not authoritative. And one of the things that I wanted to, I kind of orbited around it, but this operation in layers of contradiction and how that is related to the trauma bonding. And that's a whole lot. Like there's like 4 different subtopics in that one little micro half sentence. So I wanted to touch on the contradictions. And again, all disclaimers, all caveats. I'm not saying that there aren't contradictions in other ideologies, but my focus is on, as I'm clawing my way out of this cult, like that is the main thing. That is the first thing that when I realized what was going on, which we're going to get to that, the major realization, which sort of dawned over time. But the main thing that I was horrified by was how I didn't see any of the contradictions. And it's very interesting that now I pretty much see them everywhere. And again, I'm not familiar enough with the other side yet to claim one way or another if it's full of contradictions or not. And I'm also not saying that something can't be paradoxical and not be true. Christianity is built on paradox, the already and the not yet. And I'm not going to get into a theological thing here. Let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in. I have a theology degree because I thought I was going to get all my questions about God answered. Isn't that cute? I didn't become a believer until I was an adult, and then was like, oh, I'm going to figure all this out. Yeah, exactly. So now I joke that the way I use my degree is I tell God what to do. So that's fun. And yeah, ask me how well that's working. So anyway, but paradox and contradiction are different. And oh, buddy.
Yeah, yeah. We do not jump from that high. No, we are too old. Yeah, that's not a thing we're gonna do.
Um, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Purr. You're a little motor. Yeah, you little snuggle motor.
oh,
Oh, yeah.
like buddy. Anyway, so the contradiction thing, I want to touch on that because it is amazing to me how, as someone who I mean, I got straight A's in school, had AP classes.
Yeah, I will put you down. Yeah.
Um and has a college degree. All of the traditional definitions of being smart. I, had all that, did all the achievements. Sorry, he needs to.
Yeah, is the door closed? Yeah, can you not get out? Yeah, you poor thing. I know, life is so hard. No.
I really thought I was, engaging in critical thinking, and if something was wrong, I'd figure it out. I also wasn't I didn't think I was in an echo chamber. I was regularly engaging with people that I disagreed with, partly because I liked to provoke arguments. I would say that I really loved conflict, partly because I saw that as a way to test relationships. So that's just a little bit of vulnerability there. I didn't think a relationship was real unless I'd gone through a conflict with somebody and saw how that went, how they behaved. Could I really trust them if I was my true self, which, of course, pisses a lot of people off. And I think if we're honest, most of us would feel that way too. So, but I just feel extensively like that. And again, that's not to say there's not massive emotional immaturity and a lot of growing that I needed to do and still need to do. But so I really didn't think that I was in the dark at all. I didn't think I knew everything, but I wanted to know everything about everything. And part of being brought up as an oldest child is you hear messages like you should know better. You're the role model. So I got afraid of like, what happens if I don't know everything? So that's probably one of my neuroses about I love to learn. Sure. And I'm also terrified that I'll die alone under a bridge if I don't know everything. Anyway, today's vulnerability day, apparently. I'm going to go have a vulnerability hangover after this. So the contradiction piece started to come up when I would ask a question. And I started asking questions when I was still very much in the belief of the woke ideology. I was confused, and I genuinely thought I would get answers. I wasn't trying to poke holes. I wasn't trying to defeat the whole movement. I was really just like, oh, that does seem contradictory. And I'm sure there's a good explanation, right? That's what good faith, it wasn't even arguing, good faith engagement is. So when I started to do that, and, I'll just give some examples, and I kind of touched on this before. So, one example would be, and this we'll get into later, but if the idea on the radical left is that the Constitution is racist, the government, therefore, the basis of the United States government, the Constitution, is racist, therefore the government is racist. Structural racism, right, is a thing everywhere on every level. Why is it then that we are pretty much blindly going along with whatever the government says during the COVID times? I really thought that there was a good answer to that question. I thought there would be totally a resolution, and I wasn't trying to be snarky at all. I was like, I'm actually just genuinely confused. I'm very sure that there's a good explanation, and I just don't know what it is. Because they seem contradictory to me. We are out on the streets, since George Floyd's death, protesting the structural racism that has been causing all of these horrific outcomes for people of color, because institutional racism is a thing. The Constitution was built, the United States was built on racism and slavery, right? So when all of a sudden there's this massive and seemingly unquestioned move towards, we just do whatever the government says because the government cares about our safety. I'm like, but weren't we just talking about Tuskegee? Weren't we just talking about the medical experiment, the unapologetic, unrepentant medical experimentation on people of all people of color, on women, on people who are in the disabled community? Like, I'm confused at this. What did I miss in this massive switch? So that's just one example. And the answers that I got, I won't call them answers. The responses I got were, you want to kill grandma, you're selfish, you're dangerous, I hope you get COVID and die. I'm quoting people. I'm quoting people on the left, the far left, who claim to be morally superior than those Republicans, those conservatives, those people in the red states. Those are literal answers I have gotten. I'm quoting, I'm not even making this up at all. And they, to my face, they have said this. They're not even hiding behind the internet anymore. That's how bad this has gotten. You want to shut down the world to protect people, except me. Because I asked a question. I didn't even say, no, I won't wear a mask. No, I won't get the shot. No, I won't do any of these things. I was just asking, oh, okay. And my implication was, how do we know that what the government is doing now is all of a sudden not structurally racist, not institutionally racist? Like, how do we know that this is any different than what we've claimed it was 5 seconds ago in 2019, right? So, those were not answers. Those were essentially death threats, right? So, not that they were saying, I hope they were going to do it, but I hope you get COVID and die because I asked a question. So I was like, okay, something else must be going on here. And I want to wonder about this intolerance of questions, all the while safeguarding contradiction. I don't know about you all. When I was in college take one, which was in CU Boulder, I took a symbolic logic class. It was maybe the best class I've ever taken in my life. It was, and this was 2005. I would take that class all day long every day. I loved it so much. It was exactly how my brain worked. And it was also super validating, which is not the, okay, we can talk about validation and how way overboard the left is gone and how we need a little bit more on the right here. But symbolic logic is essentially how words work. A and not A cannot be true at the same time. It's just, that is a rule of logic, just like the laws of thermodynamics. And that is a contradiction, not a paradox. So I'm confused about, and I'm still not sure exactly the role of contradiction in the radical left. I know that it, or my suspicion is that it comes from the trauma bonding, and that when you are in a constant state of trauma, which the radical left now trumpets as an achievement, staying angry, staying reactive, staying hyper vigilant, staying afraid, essentially, you are actually re-traumatizing yourself every day, but you're constantly having these images of the trauma back in front of you every single day, over and over, and reciting your trauma, then you are going to lose logic. That's just how the brain works. So because it's going to shut down the, if you've heard of Daniel Kahneman thinking fast and slow, it's going to stop the slow thinking and go to the fast thinking. If you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, you are not going to be thinking about if there's contradictions in the world. And I think that the evidence of the radical left believing that they're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger is pretty clear in that there's so much urgency. Everything's on fire all the time, and you better listen to us and do this thing now. Just even in the rollout of the shots, we had to move at the speed of science, the speed of science. We didn't have time. We didn't have time to do this. I'm like, speed of science is super slow, actually. On average, it takes about, this might be wrong, but it's something like 30 years, 15 to 30 years for something that has been discovered in a study in research to actually make it into the mainstream. Yeah, that's not fast. That's all, that 30 years is only a little bit less than my lifetime. So the speed of science is actually slow. And so this whole urgency, we must burn it all to the ground, and we'll figure out the replacement society after we burn it all to the ground. We just have to burn it all now. It's an urgent, everybody's dying all the time about all the things. And I'll get to climate change in a later video, because that was the last domino to fall for me. But and I know, here come y'all climate change deniers, here come y'all, and I hear the thunder, because I was part of that crowd for a very long time. So I got your number. But I'm not going to say I'm a climate change denier, by the way. You all are. So anyway, just this massive sense of urgency, such that, like, you just have to trust us. You just have to trust us. You just have to trust it. We're right. And we'll get the science later. We'll get the proof later. Or everything will be in ashes, and so that'll be the least of our problems. Okay. And I actually think dealing with contradictions is pretty important, because contradictions can't exist at the same time. That's a simplistic answer. I'm not saying that there's no structural racism. I'm not saying that there's no institutional racism. I'm just saying it seems a little odd that these people who are out marching in the streets, actually doing a lot of damage. I live in Seattle, and I have a friend who lives in Portland. So we made news because of a lot of there was, and I will vouch for it, there was a lot of property damage. Actually, there's still damage. So anyway, doing that in the name of institutional and structural racism. And then we listen to public health officials, we listen to the government, the CDC is a federal agency that doesn't have the constitutional right to exist, but that won't matter to you if you think the Constitution is racist, right? So these are the kinds of things that there's just, this makes it also very difficult to talk to radical leftists, because it's not that they don't have logic, it's that their logic, and people have on the left have said this, we need to bend data to fit the needs of the most marginalized. And if you want to link to that video, and you can see the Looney Tunes, I can send that to you. Bend data. We want to bend reality to meet the needs of the most marginalized. Yeah, that data doesn't work that way. But saying data doesn't work that way, which is like a self-evident statement, is considered racist now. So the thing I'm still exploring is how did this happen so quickly? And I know it didn't. I know that there's been leftist infiltration in all of the institutions for a very long time now, but I didn't know that. So anyway, this video was a little bit all over the place, as they usually are. So that's what I have for you. I would love to hear your thoughts on contradiction, as long as they are respectful and civil. You don't have to agree with me. But trolling is not, just to be clear, trolling is not civil, respectful disagreement. So yeah, usually those things are mostly evidence that, oh, I've triggered you. What part of what I'm saying are you afraid is true? So I invite you to consider that. And it's fine if it's nothing, but I do tend to believe, now that I've gotten some distance from the constant reactivity, the constant outrage. If you're not outraged, you're not paying attention, right? I used to say that all the time, and I was like, wow. Yeah, that's kind of demonic. Anyway, is that you actually can calmly disagree with people, and both of you can come out better after that conversation. So that's it for this week, and I will see you all next week on Mondays with Megan.